It was announced yesterday that children from primary schools will not be going back until the 8th of March at the earliest. So for parents who are not considered to be critical workers or not considered to be parents of vulnerable children, that means that children are going to be at home with those parents trying to access learning from home for the next 6 weeks or maybe even more. Now, as a parent myself of 3 school-aged children who were at home during the first lockdown in March until the summer months, I found that really, really challenging. I know not everybody did, but I know that a lot of people did. And at the moment, that means trying to get your head around online learning, video lessons, trying often to juggle work with also helping your child access that learning. Again, that's not for everybody. I know some people are furloughed or some people are not working, but even for people that aren't working at the moment, it's that getting that balance of trying to help your child, support them, but it's constantly, I suppose, that question of, am I giving them too much support? I'm not giving them enough. Am I pushing them too hard? Am I not pushing them enough? And trying to cajole them on, and get them motivated in a very different context to what they're used to learning in. Now, this can be compounded by the amount of stress that people are feeling at the moment for various different reasons. And then when you add to that you're in an enclosed space with your child for a long period of time, it can be quite a difficult concoction. So there's a couple of tips that I want to share with you that hopefully will help. The first tip is for you as an adult, and it's to try and do a positive daily debrief at the end of your day. This could be with your partner, it could be on your own, you could just do it mentally, or you could write it down. It would be looking back at stuff like perhaps you had a good session with your child where they learned more than you expected them to learn. They had a go more than you expected them to have a go at something. You had a nice moment with them, you had a little cuddle with them, you did something outside that was nice. It could be to do with your career, with your work. You had a positive call with someone, you showed more assertiveness than you normally would do, you showed a skill you wouldn't normally show. Someone complimented you, you had a nice discussion with someone. It can be anything positive, it doesn't have to be related to your ability as a parent. And the reason that's so important at the moment is that if we wait for positives via external media or circumstances, we could be waiting for an awfully long time. Now, what I've noticed around is a lot of negativity. The media is almost exclusively negative, and there's not a lot of perspective there in the media. And just in general, I think people are feeling what's gone on over the last year. So there's a lot of negativity, and what I see that combated with is humour and sarcasm, which is a typically British thing to do. But what I don't see is genuine positive positive, genuine positivity. So this is a way to try and switch your brain to try and look for positives. And if you look for them, you'll find them. There'll be plenty of them, but at the moment, maybe you do have to do a bit of looking. So that's tip 1. The other tip that I've got is for you as a parent to use with your child. Now, in the schools that I work in, we talk a lot about children's superpowers, which basically means their strengths. As an example, for a Key Stage 2 child, we would talk about things like adaptability, independence, problem solving, and determination. Now, at the moment, they're showing all 4 of those skills. I'm sure at home they're having to adapt to a new situation. They're having to problem solve. They're probably having to do quite a lot of independent work off their own back. And they're probably having to show quite a bit of determination, or you could replace that with resilience, which they are having to show. It's a case of looking for those opportunities to talk about when they're showing those strengths. Not just talk about it in a pep talk when you say you've noticed they've showed those strengths. It has to be drip fed in there on a relatively constant basis, so they learn those positives about themselves. For a younger child, it might be different words. So it might be stuff like being cheerful, being imaginative, being helpful and kind. And again, that might relate to, in terms of everyday situations, that might relate to perhaps being helpful that they took their plate into the kitchen after they had their lunch. Their cheerfulness cheered you up. Being kind with a cuddle made you smile. It's different words, but it's the same sort of message. You're talking to your child about the things that you like about them. Now, the bigger picture here is short term, hopefully. That gives them a boost. It makes it a nicer time at home. the bigger picture is they learn positive resilience. And might sound a strange expression, but I think we often see resilience as being coming through a challenging situation by hook or by crook, no matter what scars that's left us with. But positive resilience is when you don't just go through something, you grow through something, and you learn how you've navigated your way through that using your skills and your strengths. So both these tips will help with that. The first tip for you, the second tip for your children, because if a child comes to the end of this, whenever that's going to be, and can see that they handled that very different situation using skills X, Y, and Z, it means they've taken some ownership of something that was very different, and they learn what they've done to make that okay for themselves. Then whether or not the child experienced lockdown as being horrendous, somewhere in the middle, or they actually quite liked it, they learn about the skills they've showed that's had the impact. So they're really positive things to do. Now, I know a lot of people kind of scoff at this type of stuff, sometimes because they don't understand it, sometimes because it makes them feel uncomfortable and it's not the norm. But in schools where we've really used this type of language intensively with certain children, we've seen a real upturn in the way that child's presented. We've seen less refusal, less non-compliance. We've seen more ability to try things they wouldn't normally try, less of those low-level behaviours. So short term, one of your goals here, and one of the things that might work, is that your children might actually, to say it, behave better, and that gives you a bit of respite as well. But longer term, it's about changing the narrative within them, and hopefully they start to become more confident in themselves and learn how they can control situations via their skills. And believe me, I work in 10 different schools across 4 different boroughs, with many different types of child presenting in front of me, different social economic backgrounds, different levels of academic intelligence, and I can work with the most articulate year 6 child who will sit opposite me, and when I ask them, what do you like about yourself, they stare blankly at me in response, and then I'll put it another way, what are your strengths? They don't know. So the work I'm doing in schools is trying to really raise the awareness of children need to know about their skills. They're not in school, they haven't been in school. Once this is all finished, which we don't know whether it will be the 8th of March, at the very least it's going to be 7 or 8 months that they've had off school in a year. So I guess now it falls on parents to use some more of this language, which I know you've already got other stuff to think about, but this is just a tip that I think really will help both the day-to-day stuff but longer term stuff as well. And what I'm hoping to do, if I get enough comments and questions, is if you've got a comment or a question, or maybe a specific scenario that you're finding tricky at home that you'd like to share and like some bespoke advice on, then please put it in the comments below, and I will try and do like a virtual Q&A where in a week's time I'll look at what comments and questions and scenarios have been put below, and I will try and come back with some specific answers. So until then, take care. Cheers.